Hello, Marblehead, and greetings from Abbott Hall. This is a special edition of Up for Discussion, a program where we explore the issues that you are talking about around town. Our thanks to Town Administrator John McGinn for inviting us into the 1776 room here at Abbott Hall while our MHTV facilities undergo a major upgrade. Our panel for September is Joanne Mayer, a former member of the Board of Selectmen and a local political activist. Also, Ethan Foreman, the reporter for the Salem Evening News. And Chris Stevens, editor of the Marblehead Reporter and wickedlocal.com. So, Joanne, this must feel interesting to you to be back in the Selectman's chair?
It's always a great room. It's such full of history, and it's just really great to be here.
Well, on our front burner, the changing face of Marblehead. 3 projects are promising to alter the landscape of our town. One, a helpful place for seniors to live. Another, to provide much-needed parking in the downtown business district. And the third, to upgrade our waterfront near State Street Wharf. So let's begin and take them one by one. Chris, bring us up to speed on the Mariner, if you would.
Well, they've filed their plans. 87-unit, 108-bed assisted living facility is what they're touting at the moment. There's going to be a public hearing on the 21st, so people can come out, kind of hear about the program, or hear about the project and voice any concerns that they might have. You know, and that's really where they are. There's not a lot you can do. They've got to have the public hearing.
So the hearing would be before the Board of Appeals?
Yes.
And this is
I'm
for...
assuming they need a special permit. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't looked over the whole application, so I don't know exactly what it is that they're looking for, but it's the opportunity for the public to come out, which is nice. I think it's a good project. I don't, you know, I think the buzz around town, generally it's needed. There's not any place like that in Marblehead that I know of. You know, people, I know several people actually in just this year that have left town because they need to downsize and there's no place really for them to go. So I think that it's a good project.
I've heard nothing but positive things about it. It's probably going to be expensive, but they all are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be on the idea of like a Brixby Village kind of place. It's got a library. They're going to have a workout room. They're, you know, going to have all the amenities. So it's sort of like one of these all-inclusive, so you don't have to leave the property. You can kind of stay there and do everything.
So this would kind of stem the flow of people headed for Vinton Square out of Marblehead as they get a little bit older?
Maybe it's the answer to the Vinton Square.
Well, it seems like there's a spate of these projects on the North Shore. I think we're looking into one in Swampscott on Salem Street, and that's would be in the vicinity of the Marshalls building.
Really?
So it seems like there's a spate of these. I wonder with this project, though, being built on Pleasant Street, whether this would be create a traffic problem, and also whether, you know, you would, if you need a light there, you know, then you're stuck at the light there, then you're stuck at the light at the fire station. You know, it's like, you know, and you're stuck at the light at the at Smith Street. So. It's a very tricky road, and turning left out of that might trigger some discussion. So
Those things can be fixed. And they can also you can enter from the rear. You don't have to enter from Pleasant Street.
Which I think it is.
Which I think is the plan.
Yeah,
I think that's
the
the plan.
plan isn't to have the egress.
So that's good,
Pleasant Street, yeah, because that would be tough. Although there'll be traffic with people coming to visit, obviously people that work there, but it's going to be assisted living. So I'm not thinking that a whole lot of the people are going to be driving. So, you know, some may not, but I think in terms of residents, there's probably not going to be a lot of traffic.
Probably less than if they built houses there.
Totally. I think absolutely there'd be less if they were building houses, because nowadays it seems like everybody has, it used to be interesting that people had 2 cars. Now I see people have 3 cars in their yard. So I think there would absolutely be more traffic if it were houses.
And what do we know about the developers?
2 of them are local. Michael Lafayette and Heather Carnes, I believe they're married. They live out on the neck. You know, the family does I don't know if they still do it because I'm relatively new, but it used to do the big haunted house out on the neck. That's them.
Oh,
So-
right on.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah. And the other gentleman is Philip Helms from, what is it, Helms Company. It's a consulting.
He's a Marbleheader too, I believe.
He's also on the
He's on our
planning board.
planning board, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, he is on the planning board, I
Yeah.
forgot, yeah.
Heather Carnes is a former, she went to school in Marblehead, graduated from Marblehead Schools, went to California, and worked for Google, and came back,
cool.
and she's just a great asset to the town.
That's great,
I think she was the number 4 employee at Google.
wow.
Started out
That's
as a
fantastic.
secretary, yeah.
Oh.
It's a very interesting story.
Worked
Yeah, I mean,
in,
it
worked
looks
in
like a
human
good-
resources.
I mean, they look like
So it's local money,
pensions.
and the management, they've picked a management according to your newspaper.
Yeah, and it seems like having that local, those local developers will be able to address any of those concerns.
It's nice that they live here too, so it's gonna be concerns for them as well, you know.
Well, what are you hearing from the neighbors? Anything yet, or is it too early?
I've talked to a couple of neighbors, and they seem to be positive about it.
Yeah, we
I
did too,
think,
same thing.
considering the development that could take place on that property,
Mm-hmm.
this is a great alternative. It's gonna look nice, it's compact in terms of what a housing development would look like. So I think it's a favorable addition.
There's probably not gonna be a lot of wild parties or anything there, so. Although there could be, you never
Yeah,
know.
that silver tsunami, you
Just
never
wait,
know.
wait till I get there.
I think Fraffy's going to have something to say about that at the end of the show, as a matter of fact, so we'll have to see how that goes. Well, George Shube, the owner of Shuby's Market, stirred a bit of a hornet's nest with his proposal to bring something that is sorely needed to the business district, parking. So what is the fuss all about?
I talked to George, and George is as bemused as you are.
Yeah.
Did you research this? Oh, well,
Yeah,
go ahead. you go.
No, go ahead.
No, he said, he's had one letter to the editor, which we all read, from a former Marbleheader. Her maiden name was Sarah Thayer, but I forget her married name. That's been it. And he said people that come into the store are positive. And I said, well, George, supposing someone offered to buy the thing for, he said, I'll give it to them for $1 if they want to move it.
So,
He's very open to
Oh,
any
yeah,
suggestions you can
He's
give.
the nicest guy.
And he's a really great guy, and they've been good neighbors in Marblehead. I mean, they're good people.
so we're talking about the building that used to be Sweeney's Retreat and
Yeah.
had many other names
Michael's and
before
yeah,
that,
yeah.
the restaurant, but it has allegedly some historic significance?
That's what they're saying. I don't think that bay window is very historic.
No, I don't think so either. There's been a couple of people that, that say, what is it, it's one of the last 17th century, 18th century homes in that area. The house has already been moved once, that's not the original location of the property anyway.
There's a big preservation fight going on in the town that I covered. There, buildings, if it's a first period building, if it dates back that far, and I think it was like, I saw something 1757,
Yeah.
57. If it dates back that far, there aren't that many first period buildings in the country. Something like 400 or 500 first period. These are original dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
And once they're gone, they're gone.
Yep.
So we had a preservation fight, and there was 2 ongoing over the last year. One was an old funeral home that was 1894. St. Mary's Church in Danvers bought it, knocked it down to put up a parking lot. There was a big outcry, but it didn't gain as much traction. There was an old 1680, 65 farmhouse out in the boondocks, and people were able to convince the town to put or at least move for a preservation restriction. So even though it's a small building, and it's been there, it's been kind of part of the landscape, once it's gone, it's a parking lot, so.
Somebody in a letter to the editor quoted Joni Mitchell's song, Take Paradise and Put Up a Parking Lot. But and that conjures up a vision of macadam and all of that.
Yeah.
But Shuby has plans to landscape it, put outdoor dining or picnic tables or something out there.
they're
So I
gonna
think
do a
it's
good
going to improve downtown, I think, so.
Yeah,
And the building needs a tremendous amount of work
Yeah.
as well. So, you're gonna force the homeowner
Yeah.
to do that work, which he has said is exorbitant.
I
So-
think
if
he's got the
somebody-
right
if-
plan.
Yeah, I
He can
do
give
too.
it to whoever wants it, and they
If
can
somebody-
move it
And
around.
nobody
Sure,
has stepped
I
up to
think-
take it. Everybody had some sort of great ideas, but nobody really had viable plans to save
Right.
it. So,
yeah, I think Shu's plan will be fantastic.
yeah, he's gonna do a good job. He is.
Well, finally, work is progressing on a waterfront project at State Street Pier. Strict zoning regulations prohibit the building of condominiums there, And I hear the developers are working hard to bring maritime business to that area to keep it in sync with the zoning, but that part of it's going pretty slow, so is
They have a
anybody?
couple of tenants in there. They have a couple of people in there, I think a couple of people that are, that were in the ground floor that relocated while they're doing work in the building and are gonna come back. It's a neat building. We went to the open house, and it's such a beautiful building.
I saw your coverage of the open
Yeah, and
house.
there's
I mean,
just so
it
much
looked
history.
very tempting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous. I'm gonna talk to our boss about moving our office.
Have a nice water view.
Oh, yeah, the views are, yeah, you can't beat the views, and just the breeze coming through, and just the history of the building.
So it's limited to maritime kinds of business. Now, if they can't get those, they have other options, right? They can,
I don't know that it's listed strictly.
It's in the
limited strictly.
American, it's
Oh,
in
is
the,
it?
it's in the district, yeah.
well, it's not often that a freshman in Congress gets the attention of the White House, but Seth Moulton is emerging as an administration point man for the nuclear treaty with Iran. He wrote a letter to his constituents explaining his support for the treaty, and before you know it, it was being redistributed on White House stationery. So Ethan, what is the long-term political fallout for Seth Moulton on this, do you think?
Well, I don't know if I could predict that, but I was at Temple Emmanuel when Congressman Moulton wanted to explain to the community what his thinking was on this deal. And one of the things I think that is telling is that Robert Lappin, the head of the Lappin Foundation, was out on Atlantic Ave protesting, along with Debbie Colton, and who runs the Y2I program. So Mr. Lappin is bringing young teens to Israel every year, and if he's against this deal, I think Congressman Moulton is doing a kind of a brave thing. He's bucking a very strong constituency. I mean, there was genuine anger in that room for this deal. The meeting did not end. It didn't end on a kumbaya note. And Congressman Moulton didn't do himself any favors by trying to cite a CNN poll that showed that less educated people didn't favor the deal and more educated people favored the deal. He was trying to say it was very complex and you needed more time to understand it. And so, but I don't know. I think the community's split.
I think he would agree that was a misstep, by the way. So what are the
Took a
letters
lot
to
of
the editors
courage.
saying? It got a lot of coverage, exactly. What are the letters to the editors saying? Are they divided?
But if we've had a lot of letters, I don't know that we have. We hear a lot of people talking, and I agree with Ethan. I think it's very divided. It's a really raw issue for a lot of people, and I think it's tough. And you're right, it was brave of him to come out with that. That could not have been easy. And he is sort of, I mean, he's a combat veteran, so has seen sort of both sides of this in some ways. I don't know.
I give him credit for stepping into that hornet's nest.
Yeah.
And I did speak to some people that were there who are people whom I respect highly, and they said, Joanne, don't believe everything you hear. She said, there are a lot of us that's standing firm behind Moulton's position.
Well, is he getting credit for all that he's doing down there? I mean, he's a freshman. He's on 3 key committees now. He brought NOAA to heel on the fishing. I mean, he really got that to change in favor
He's a
of
bit of the
the
golden boy
fishermen.
right now.
He's demanding better treatment for the veterans, and I think he's making progress there, right?
Seems to be.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to get NOAA to agree to change some of the limits on the fishing that they had put in place. These very, very kind of onerous restrictions that came in suddenly. And I think that he and I think several other congressmen had signed on a letter, and that kind of worked. And so I think that is evidence that he's being listened to by the administration, by NOAA, and that's a good thing. I think that bodes well for him, that he's being taken seriously, and he can take these stands.
And he's done something to help small business. I think his latest legislation has to do with
Yeah, we just got that yesterday.
giving help to
Yeah.
small business.
I can't remember how much money, but it was substantial, yeah.
So I think, two thumbs up for
Oh.
everything
He's
he's doing
working
down
hard
there.
for a
I hope
freshman.
this doesn't come down to being a one-issue situation for him, you know?
I don't think so. I think he's in it for the haul. I do. I have a lot of admiration, a lot of faith in him.
Well, there's a lot of talk about allowing more sun to shine on Beacon Hill. Ask almost anybody who pays attention, especially journalists, and they will tell you that open government laws in Massachusetts are a joke. So there are some bills being considered on the Hill these days to let a little sunshine in, as they say. Are you following them? Who's following those?
You know, one of the things about the Sunshine Bill is people don't understand what we're trying to do, which is we just want to provide the public information that the government is looking at. And I don't know whether these bills are popular on Beacon Hill because a lot of the legislatures work with local officials. They know the local officials better than they know probably the people.
Yep.
And there's a kind of this sense, I mean, this is just my personal feeling, there's this kind of sense that the press is kind of intrusive and it's all bad news and why do we need to know? And we run up against these roadblocks all the time and trying to just provide, all we want to do is provide the information. And I'm not too hopeful that there'll be meaningful change.
Yeah. I mean, these are the people that are controlling it's their information we want. So they're not gonna, I feel like they're controlling this. I mean, it's the fact of the matter, the lawmakers are in charge of the information that we want, and they're in charge of making the laws, changing the laws. I don't think it's gonna give us any more access than we've got right now. I'm not hopeful about this at all.
Now, some of the legislation, I mean, one bill up there would prohibit local authorities from charging outrageous money for records.
Well, there's laws now on what they can charge. I mean, it's like, as a matter of fact, I looked it up. It's like 20 cents per page for photocopy, 25%, or 25 cents for microfiche, 50 cents for a computer printout. But what they do is they charge you research fees. And those, they're not supposed to charge you these exorbitant fees, but they can. Yeah, I mean, some of them certainly do. They're supposed to not charge you any more than what the lowest hourly wage in the office or something to that effect. But they charge you whatever they want. And some don't charge you. Some charge you a lot.
So it would be a good idea to at least standardize that across the
It'd be
state?
nice, yeah. I mean, I've certainly gone in to look for something and, oh yeah, we'll get you that. That'll be $64.89. I'd be like, well, and at most it was gonna cost me like $5, Yeah, it's, so it would be nice to know going in.
I would
what
hate
you're
to
gonna
tell
get.
you what the Associated Press paid for the records of the priests in the archdiocese.
Oh, I can
during-
only
during that
imagine.
scandal. But I can tell you that it got large enough to be a budget item.
Wow.
So, I don't know, are in either of your newspapers editorializing about this?
I think we have. I think I mean, just as a reporter, one of the biggest roadblocks that we get is the law calls for us gives up to 10 days.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's as soon as possible, up to 10 days. So government agencies will stonewall on these documents, And again, we're not trying to be nosy. We're not trying to embarrass anybody. We just want to tell the public what's going on, and that's I think where we run into things.
Isn't there another issue that there is really no penalty for disobeying the law?
There doesn't seem to be. I mean, nobody, like he says, they'll stonewall you right up until the end.
There's no teeth. I mean, if a board holds a meeting, I don't have to be, look, we're in Marblehead, we're in the selectmen room. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to local officials. They're volunteers and they do their darndest. Sometimes they'll hold a meeting and it won't be properly advertised, won't be properly held. You say, well, what should be the penalty for that? They're trying their best. It might be an emergency, but still the law is there to protect the public. So there isn't these kind of secret meetings.
And the other thing is, unless anybody files a complaint with the AG's office, it'll basically just go unnoticed or overlooked. So, I mean, you actually somebody has to file a complaint if somebody doesn't post a meeting, if something is held like that.
I think there's legislation proposed in there to, at the minimum, require the public entity to pay the lawyer's fees for anybody that sues and wins for information.
Yeah, I think you're right.